Okay, everybody, good afternoon. Today is Thursday, September 12th. Let me get my bearings here. Tonight, this afternoon, we're doing actually two podcasts. We're doing a podcast now at 5 o'clock, and we're doing one today at 8 o'clock as well with our friend Mike Trezza. But some interesting stuff that we're covering today. I think the first podcast we'll be discussing offshore wind with Christina Kramer, who has spent some time on this issue, and to talk not just about the good stuff, but some of the bad stuff that comes with offshore wind that we really don't focus on. You never really read about much in the news, and I think most people don't have a good sense of. So that's the purpose, and that's what we're going to start talking about. So without further ado, let me bring in Christina Kramer. Christina,
Hi,
welcome, and thank you for joining me.
thanks for having me.
Let me just make sure we are all good to go. I think we are. Okay, Christina, we are here today to talk about offshore wind and some of the consequences or unknown consequences of having windmills in the ocean that I personally don't think everyone knows about. And let me just say from the outset, as we discussed a moment ago, I have no agenda with this. I am just trying to educate myself and anybody who's watching. And sometimes I get people who watch live, sometimes I get people who watch after the fact. And people sometimes chime in with questions and so forth. So, but I'm not coming into this. I have no business. I have no dog in the fight, so to speak, other than the fact that I too live on the South Shore of Long Island in Seaford, and
Mhm.
like all of us on Long Island, we are very appreciative of our beaches, our shorelines, and so forth, and of course the safety of our children. So, welcome, Christina, and thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here. Any exposure is good.
So, what got you interested in this issue in the first place?
Well, one day in Feb, late February 2023, I received a letter that said, "Hey, Kramers, we're going to drop 245,000 volts of electricity right in front of your house. And we just want to let you know about it. And if you're interested, there's a phone call you can get on to find out more about it." So I showed the letter to my husband and I said, "Hey, do you think we should worry about this, or, just what do we do?" He says, "Oh, just throw it out." And I said, "Let's just go anyway." So we went to this meeting, and I'm sorry, we got on this phone call, and little did I know I was going to end up on that phone call for 8 hours. And honestly, I learned everything that and more than I wanted to know, listening to the people on that call asking questions of Equinor, and getting these really disturbing answers. When it got to my turn, I said, "So, what's 245,000 volts of electric like?" They said, "Oh, it's the same as a toaster oven or a hair dryer." So I just ran on Google and I said, "Well, how much is a toaster oven?" And it was like 200 volts. And I said, "But I don't run my hair dryer or my toaster oven 24 hours, 7 days a week. And this is not apples to apples. This is apples to airplanes." So I just feel like this could be dangerous. And they were very dismissive. They didn't really know where the cable was going to run, on the east side or the west side of my street. I asked them if it was safe for residents, and they said, "Well, we've never done any safety testing in a residential area like yours. We've never done this in a populated area, so this will be the first time." Um, so I then started learning about why they were putting these wires in front of our streets. And that's because it's the infrastructure for the wind turbines, which, just like everybody else in the world, you see a wind turbine. We have one in Point Lookout here. We're like, "Oh, yay, green energy. That must be good for the world." So we celebrated it. But then I started digging into what turbines are, how they're made, how they affect our marine life, and then I started reading the Equinor environmental impact statements, their own statements that say what's going to happen and how it's going to happen. And then I started getting some friends to read with me, and I was really disturbed about the stuff that I was reading. that they could contaminate water, our drinking water, that they could harm sea life, that they had something called incidental takes, where they were given authorization by BOEM and NOAA to kill permanently or deafen marine life. And if anybody knows anything about marine life, you know a deaf whale is a dead whale. They can't navigate, they can't find their calves, they can't reproduce, and basically they can't see under the water because they navigate with echolocation. So this is causing ship stripes and fishing entanglements. And I learned all kinds of things like that the metals that are used in turbines are strip mined in the Congo by child and slave labor, that they use hundreds of thousands of gallons of fossil fuels, that Norway, the government of Norway, is the owner of Equinor, and they are partnered with BP. And Equinor used to be called Stat Oil and changed its name in 2019 to Equinor. So these are our fuel, our petro and oil companies posing as green energy to garner our tax money in the way of subsidies to build these structures, and then to find out that even after they're built, it's not for a good purpose because it won't be energy efficient. It can't carry the payload. And then our energy rates will double, quadruple, even more than that. And so if it's for affordable energy, it's not going to be affordable anymore. Once those subsidies die, so will these turbines. There's no cleanup plan. There's no maintenance plan. I know I could keep going. Nantucket, they dropped one blade in the ocean, and that was 60,000 tons of fiberglass. And these turbine blades are each the size of a football field, and they're made with something called bisphenol A. Bisphenol A is it's an endocrine disruptor, but it's light and it's strong, and it's contained within the fiberglass. And the fiberglass, due to weather and the ocean spray, will start to get into the ocean water. The fish will eat it. We catch fish, we eat fish. Once we eat the fish, our stomach acid will break down the fiberglass, releasing the bisphenol A, and then the bisphenol A will attack the host. We're the host. So, I mean, I could go on into detail on any one of these issues, but compiled, it is historically the worst investment in energy in our lifetime.
So, Christina, I mean, there's a lot here, and we'll get to
I
as
know
much
that
as
was
we
a
can.
lot.
No, it's not that. This is good because so much of this stuff I hadn't heard of, and I think I like to read the news and stuff, but there's so many things here. So you found out about all of this, and what did you decide? So did you get involved right away, and did you get involved with Facebook? How did you get people mobilized?
Okay, so after I went to that first meeting, I joined the local Facebook group, which was in Island Park, and I got maybe 1,000 people invited to that group, and that was a group that said that they were, letting people know about the plan. And it wasn't inclusive of Long Beach. And I kept asking them to include Long Beach, and they were very resistant towards it. And I couldn't make sense of why. So it was about 2 weeks into it. And I said, listen, I could get a lot more people involved if you would just put Long Beach in the title. And then they revealed to me that they weren't interested in stopping the turbines. They were more interested in the community benefits that they could attain from the turbine companies, which led me down an entirely different rabbit hole, where these turbine companies are going to all of the environmental organizations, Splash, Surfrider, League of Conservation Voters, AMCs, the Atlantic Marines, the Atlantic Marine Foundation, the Audubon Society, even locally, our local communities, our municipality was taking money from them for the Harvest Fest. Civics were being promised rec centers and what have you. So these people have been all over the place buying silence or support. Anyway, what brought me to this is that after they rejected me and said they didn't want Long Beach on the page because they were steadfast in their purpose, which was to remain neutral and seek the most amount of community benefits, I parted ways with them on March 9th and created Protect Our Coast, Long Island, New York. And within a month, I had 1,000 followers. And to this day, this was just maybe 2 years ago, we have 5,400 members. We've attained 13 to 15,000 signatures in opposition of offshore wind and the Rapid Act, which I could explain to you what that is also.
Please. What is the Rapid Act?
Okay, so the Rapid Act. So when these companies want to lease property, BOEM leases ocean property. The size of not property, ocean space. Okay, the size of the space they have leased is 80,000 acres, and they want to erect 152 turbines that are each the size of the Chrysler Building, 951 feet tall.
Wow. Wow.
Yep, and that's from sea level.
Christina, let me my typing. So they want to erect 152 turbines, each of which is the size of the Chrysler building. Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
And to put this in perspective, it's about 30 times the size of Long Beach and a quarter of the size of Nassau County. So this is a huge amount of space.
I don't think, so I don't want to interrupt you. Please continue, but I don't think people really understand this. I mean, I didn't realize the size.
They don't, and they won't until the damage is done. And that's why I started fighting. That's why we started fighting. So, they huge amounts, and so that's just for 143 turbines. Behind that, they've already leased another company called RWE has leased. I don't know what the area is, but they want to put up another 687 turbines there. So on the south coast of Long Island, if they get all of the turbines that they are hoping to construct in the ocean, it would be about 2,277 turbines. And if they get all the turbines they want along the East Coast, it will equate to about 5,500 turbines. And these are all different companies that most of them are from across the pond in Europe, China, Italy, France, Norway, and most of them are oil and petro companies. And with each of these turbine installations, there are offshore substations. Now, these offshore substations have a 200 by 200 footprint, and they use about 6,000 gallons each of an oil called, it's a lubricating oil called SF6. SF6 is sulfur hexafluoride, and that is one of the most lethal carcinogens that we have on this planet. It will never leave the Earth's atmosphere, and it's 23,000 times worse than carbon dioxide, which is the purpose that they say they are doing this for, to reduce carbon emissions and carbon dioxide from the air.
Christina, let me interrupt you for a second. Yeah, let me interrupt you for a second. What was the structure besides the turbines? What was the structure you called that they?
It's called an offshore substation.
Okay.
I'll tell you a little bit more about an offshore substation.
Please.
So an offshore substation is meant to take the high voltage wires from the turbines and cool them. So what they're going to be doing there is taking cool, beautiful, clean ocean water, sucking it into the substations, cooling off the copper wires. Then they're going to bleach it or chemicalize it in some way, warm it up 40 degrees hotter than it was, and then dump it back into the ocean. It's about 8,000 I'm sorry, 80, I think it's 8,000 gallons a day or 80,000 gallons a day. I get the numbers mixed up, but
Okay.
that'll equate to about 3 million gallons of water every single year. And that's just 2 substations off of Long Island. And each one of these projects have their own set of substations. So I ask
Wow.
you, what is that doing for global warming and climate change?
There's a lot. It's a lot. Wow.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody knows this. I don't think anybody
Well, the
knows about
people
this.
on our team do. We have,
Yeah.
and people say, "What did you do? Google this? Were you Google warrior?" We get every ounce of our data from their environmental impact statements. We look at Empire, we look at Ambaric, we look at Bowen, we look at NYSERDA. We look at their statements, what they say is going to happen. All we do is regurgitate it to the public so that they can see what's going to happen if these things get a green light. And, moreover, we
Mhm.
have reached out and have great relationships with other communities in all over the United States and Australia, Norway. Norway has a 4-year moratorium on turbines. Um, and here's the clincher. Places like Australia are knee deep in this. They've sacrificed so much of their land for solar and wind, and these structures can't carry the payload. They depend on fossil fuels. So they can't do the job. They take up a massive amount of resources. They're destructful. They're expensive. They're harmful. Like, there's nothing good about a turbine. The only thing that is green is the subsidies, what the CEOs are making. I don't even think at this point they care if they go up. They're just getting paid these large sums of money to come up with these plans, and I don't even know if they care if they go up anymore. They are such harmful projects. And the sad part is that I believe the people who consider themselves the environmentalists have fallen off the table. They fell in love with the whole green aspect of it. And when I do presentations, they say, but we have to do something about climate change. And I'm like, okay, I'm not here to change your political beliefs or who you're going to vote for president. I'm just saying, if you're here because you think that we need to reduce fossil fuels or improve climate change in some way, they say in their statements that there will be a net zero impact on climate change. If we erect all of the turbines that they want to put in the oceans, all these structures, we already have 340,000 of them in the world, and they carry a tiny sliver of the energy in the world. So how much should we consume? But they say in their own statements, if we I don't keep saying the same word. If we build all these turbines by the year 20,050, we will have a 0.00003 improvement in temperature. And if we continue on, by the new millennium, we will have a 0.0007 improvement in the climate. So people say, don't you even want to do the tiniest little bit, your part for your grandchildren? Yes, of course I do. But you know what? I don't want to give up my quality of life and the way we live here today and pay 16 times the price of energy than we need to. Furthermore, New York is the 12th or 13th largest economy in the world, and we produce 0.04 of the carbon emissions. We have natural gas here. It's clean. We have other states, even in our union, screw China. In our own union, we have Indiana and Illinois, other states that still use coal. Here in New York, we use natural gas. So why are we being held and forced into a higher level when there are many states in the union that haven't even met our clean emissions? And do they think in those other states that airshed isn't affecting us? Because it is. And China, by the way, is building 2 to 3 new coal plants every 2 to 3 weeks. So they're processing all the coal to make these steel structures for us idiots. Like,
Yeah.
give me more questions.
Well, I'll tell you where I want to focus, Christina, because here's what happens. And we haven't met, we don't know each other. By
Right.
the way, before I want to say something, I should have said from the outset, Thank you very much to my friend Val, our friend Val
Yes,
Heffron.
love Valerie.
Yeah, Valerie's been a tremendous supporter. She's a tremendous friend, and I love Val to death. She had suggested that we do this, and I immediately jumped on it because I wanted to learn. And as we were talking offline of how we do this, and this is being streamed on Facebook. It's a public streaming. Anyone can comment. Anyone can ask questions if they so choose, or they can comment after the fact. And if they do, Christina, please, I'll forward you questions. But I challenge anybody watching or any of my friends who are on my Facebook page, many of whom are very smarter than I. Did you guys know about what was it called, Christina? It was called the offshore substation. The substations. Did you guys realize? Because I didn't. What a substation is. I kind of understood what you meant about the voltage, the transferring the voltage. I didn't understand about the cooling. It's not my expertise, but it does make a lot of sense to me that is a requirement of this process of generating electricity from a windmill. Now, the part that nobody would really understand, I think, is what you said about how you're dumping back into the ocean warm water, hot water. I mean, it's clearly not natural, right? I mean, whatever the temperature is, even if it's a degree or two higher, it's not the natural environment.
It's 40 degrees higher.
40 degrees higher.
Yes. I'd also like to mention that it's not just the turbines. I mean, turbines are terrible. They have infrasound, they have noise during construction, during mapping that are harmful to marine life. But in our own communities, there are three parts. It's the turbines, it's the infrastructure, which are the high voltage wires that will be snaked through our communities. And that project is called Propel New York. That project, Article 7, just started today, as a matter of fact. Earlier today, I was on that call. And then there's a third part to this puzzle, and that's called BESS, B.E.E.S.S. BESS, BESS. So you got one extra E in there.
Oh, sorry.
No,
what
it's good.
What does that stand for?
Battery, energy, supply, system. Okay, so let me explain what these things are. It's insane. Yeah. So these high voltage. Let's start with the second one, and we talked about turbines a little bit. Let's talk about the high voltage infrastructure, which is being controlled by Propel New York. To start with, turbines are subsidized with our federal tax dollars, so we're all paying for it by way of subsidies. Okay, the high voltage infrastructures from Propel New York are controlled by, are paid by ratepayer dollars. Okay, so the people who pay for energy in New York will be paying for this project. Now, our communities are saying, oh, we need to upgrade our infrastructure. We have more need. Our grid is suffering. But I'll have you know that turbines will actually destabilize the grid because they're intermittent. They don't produce all the time. Turbines only produce 100% power 40% of the time. They have a cut-in speed at 9 miles per hour, and they have to be shut off remotely at 55 miles per hour or more. So only
wow. Can I make you repeat that? Because I want to make sure I write this down accurately. Yes. Turbines produce intermittent power, and they only produce power 40% of the time?
Well, they only produce 100% of their capabilities 40% of the time.
And they have to be turned off
remotely. Yes.
Remotely when the wind gets to be too fast?
55 miles per hour. And sitting on top of a turbine are diesel engines, like they're motors that are filled with hundreds of gallons of fossil fuel lubricants, including SF6.
I got to write that one down also. Diesel engines. I mean, you can't make this stuff. Diesel. I'm laughing, but I'm not laughing. I mean, this is just, like, do people realize what the hell we're doing? I mean, does anyone understand this?
That engine is about the size of 20 cars.
The size of 20 cars sits on each of these?
Yes.
Wow.
They also need think about the ships and the helicopters and the de-icing, all the energy it takes to put these things up, maintain them, and keep them operating. So as I was saying before,
Yeah.
so the high voltage infrastructures, those high voltage wires,
Yeah.
okay, let me just explain something. After I learned this after the toaster oven incident, I started I started seeking out information, and we got an expert to explain to us how electricity and EMF is measured and how it pertains to human beings. So EMF is all around us. It's in our iPhones, our computers, everywhere. Each of us in our homes and in our lifestyles have 1 to 3 milligauss of EMF around us all the time. You can put mg for milligauss. So that's how EMF is measured, okay? The electromagnetic fields.
Okay.
So when Equinor's wires here, they're only going to be about 20 feet from my doorstep, only 36 inches beneath the ground. And we asked them at the New York State Public Service Commission hearing, how much milligauss will they be coming in at, like on Riverside Boulevard? And they said 50 to 80 milligauss. Okay.
Okay. So milligauss and the 50 milligauss and the amount that we are exposed to as like a baseline level, how much did you say it
1
was?
to 3, 1 to 3 milligauss. Right.
That's like a daily exposure, would you say?
Well, yeah.
Constant.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So this is
You could just
50.
put MG this way.
Yeah.
You can
All
look it up
right.
later.
50 mg.
Mhm.
And this is going to be constant.
Yes. 24 hours, 7 days a week.
Right. Wow.
And they said, but distance is your friend. Okay. So I'm like, okay, they give you a little chart and they say, as you go further and further away from the wire, you will be exposed to less EMF radiation. And I said, so if it's 20 feet away and my porch is there, so you're telling me I can no longer sit on my porch because these wires will be under the street, because I live on a street where cars park, but right above the street are cars park, and people notoriously will sit there and be on their phones to finish up a conversation. We live in a beach community. People walked their dogs. The kids walk to the beach barefoot here. And then I learned that being barefoot is the best conductor for this electromagnetic radiation. So the clincher here is that an increase of only 1 milligauss will double your chances of getting cancer or leukemia, especially in children or pregnant women, because their cells haven't fully developed yet.
All right. I know I've been doing this a lot, Christina, and I apologize, but I do think that
there's
this
a lot of
helps.
technology here.
I think that there's, by writing it down, I don't know how people listen. They listen for a minute or two. They listen for half. I don't know what they do, but writing it down helps me focus, and I think it, provides a little bit of a. All right. So say that one more time. You're saying that an increase by just how much? An increase?
1 milligauss.
An increase of just 1 mg
will double.
Yeah.
This is a statistically significant study. That means that people from all over the world, white papers, it's like not disputable, statistically significant. Statistically significant studies have divulged that an increase of 1 milligauss will double your chances of cancer or leukemia, especially in children and unborn fetuses, because their cells are still in the developmental stages.
So let's just circle back for cancer. Okay.
Right. And
and you're saying it's just an increase of 1. And my quick math on Facebook tells me that we said earlier that we were going
1 to 3 milligauss is
1 to 3. 1 to 3 was what we're exposed to on a daily basis, constant, whatever. That's our baseline level. And we're saying that 50 is what these lines are going to produce at 24/7.
That's
24
correct.
hours, 7 days. So we're not talking about, going 1, we're talking about going times what? 4,
yeah. And remember
50?
when I told you, my paper said that they were going to be putting 245,000 volts in front of my house?
Yes.
We learned at that New York State Public Service Commission hearing that it's not going to be 245, that it's going to be 345,000 and that it's not going to be one line, that it's going to be two lines for a total of 690,000 volts of electricity snaking through our residential community, our highly populated residential communities, unbeknownst to the people who will be walking above them and living their lives, and in being exposed to EMF radiation that is cumulative. So if you walk on it and stand on it for 10 minutes today, 10 minutes tomorrow, park your car, it's cumulative. It builds up in your body. So for me, this is a complete disaster. I will fight for the rest of my life till my dying days to make sure this, number one, doesn't happen in our community. And number two, that any other communities that I'm going to focus on Long Island, any other communities across Long Island, I will make sure they're educated, that they are aware, and that they are capable of fighting this. So
let me take it from the other side for a moment. I'm I don't know if it's relevant or not. I consider myself to be a disgruntled Democrat these days. So I'm a Democrat, but I have a lot of issues with the party from top down. I'll put it that way, from top down. And I'm probably much more of an independent. I voted Republican. I voted Democrat. I voted for Trump. I voted for Biden. And I ran as a Democrat. I'm still registered as a Democrat. What else can I say? But I question, because I talk to friends about this, and they're always talking about saving, like you said, I'm not making fun of anybody, saving the earth and saving climate and all that. And I understand, but I often fight with them about math and just saying, listen, you're not going to have the capacity. And I leave it at that. You filled in a lot of details here, but let me play the other side for a second. Are there any positive to this? I mean, this seems like an overwhelmingly negative impact to our oceans, to our climate, to everything that we're fighting for. I mean, what's the selling point to this? Is it just that everyone thinks that windmills are going to be clean? Is it just a perception? I mean, is it just that?
Well, they say the wind. This is their statement. Wind is renewable, but windmills aren't. They're not. They call them wind farms, but they're not farms. They don't grow anything. There's no agriculture. They're dirty from start to finish, from the manufacturing to the destruction in the communities. And I didn't talk about the third part, which is now these wires, these high voltage wires, they're going to go to these battery energy supply systems. Now they're trying to build these all over Long Island. Otay Mesa, these things are known to spontaneously erupt. Okay, they're made with lithium. They're made with hydrochlorine, which turns into when mixed with water turns into hydrochloric acid. If these battery stations go up, and they also want to put these in highly populated areas, they try to compare them to Texas. And in Texas, they're in 300 to 400 acre properties. Here, they want to put them 200 feet to where people live and schools are. If these BESS stations spontaneously combust, there will be lockdowns. You'll have to tape up your windows. You won't be able to breathe the air except for inside your house for days on end. They will contaminate the water source. They will get down into the Lloyd Aquifer. I mean, you're asking, you didn't keep on, but you did ask me about the positives and the benefits. And I'm sorry, but there aren't any. The only benefits are to the investors who invest in these commodities, to the governor, to the politicians who are making deals, to these companies that our politicians are in bed with and laundering money. I don't know what's going on in the upper. All I can tell you is as a resident, as a homeowner, as an investor, as a mother, as a business owner, this is a bad deal all around for all of us. I can't think of anything that's good about this. Energy will be higher. It can't meet the energy needs. Expensive. Damaging. No, I want to say, except for this one benefit, there is not. I can't find it.
Because you've provided so much context here, and because we got into the weeds with a lot of details, that any one of these points are worth, probably their own podcast. But let's just go back to the speculation for a moment. And you said it right. You know these things because you've put time in it. You don't know what their motivations are, but let's just play around for a moment. I mean, Is this a money grab? Is this what this is all about? Just a giant money grab where
This
we
will
are
be the worst wealth transfer in our lifetime.
right?
This is a
And
wealth transfer. Do you know that they are already talking about taking 6% of your earnings to put towards energy costs? Like, that's just insane. It is our government pushing us into electric cars, electric stoves, electric heat, and then saying, well, you better conserve because we don't have enough of it because of the way we're producing energy. I don't know. It's nonsensical to me.
one other impact, and forgive me if you mentioned it and I didn't write it down or I didn't hear you. We talked about sea life. We've of course talked about children and humans and our lives and how it can affect all of us, cancer, leukemia. But in addition to that, I think I read an article once. I have some insight into this because I think I know somebody who's working on this. But the windmills also have an effect on birds, right? As they migrate. Um,
Absolutely. They want to put these squarely in the piping plover migratory pattern from Long Island to Maine. We're not even allowed to like walk near a piping plover on the beach. Like, you could get arrested and do time for that. But they're going to be allowed to put these right in a migratory pattern of the piping plover and of the North American right whale. There's less than 300 of those left in existence, and they want to put it in their migratory pattern. It I could never conceive of an idea like this, and yet they keep getting the green light for everything. Also, the FAA, they say that these structures are over 400 feet taller than they are allowed to be because they mess with the radar of the planes. So how many people have to die in a plane accident for them to start seeing that this is an issue? And the FAA is not fighting. Apparently, they're working out deals. But I've got flight attendants that are friends and they're concerned. They're like, this, I didn't sign on for this. They should not be able to interfere. And then you have the whole fishing industry. That's another problem. Boats drop anchors on these wires. If you break one of these wires, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe even in the millions to fix this. And then they're going to be infringing on the recreational and fishing industry for all along the East Coast. The lobster, the fish, there's so much here. You want to maybe have a podcast with Bonnie Brady on the fishing industry. Bonnie Brady or Megan Lapp, they'll give you an earful. That's their specialty.
Well, no, for sure I know about the fishing impact and as far as what I read about it and so forth. But the other thing I wanted to ask you about, just forgot what I was going to say, but I'm going to ask you a different question first. Are you getting well, this is what I want to ask you. So today is what? Today is September 12th. Where are we? I mean, what has already been done? What can be stopped? What has already been constructed? Where are we today?
Okay. So right now, as I said, Equinor controls Empire 1 and Empire 2. Okay. Empire,
How do you spell Equinor?
Equinor.
Okay. Equinor.
I spell it Equinoil, but go ahead. Sorry.
I'll copy it because it's exactly what it is. Equinoil. They control what?
They control EW1 and EW2. That's Empire 1 and Empire 2.
Right.
Empire 1's high voltage wire cables will go around Long Beach to Brooklyn. Okay. Empire 2 was slated to go right through Long Beach, right through Island Park, and then to the Barrett substation, and then throughout Long Island. Now, Empire, and let me know, you want me to slow down?
Well, I kind of butchered that last one. EW2 was going to go through Long Beach and then through Long Island?
Yep.
Okay.
And then Empire 1, right. And Empire 1 is going to go around Long Beach and land in Brooklyn.
Okay.
Empire 1 has already finished with the Article 7 process and has been approved. They have started construction in Brooklyn while the Brooklynites have been sleeping. So our group just concentrated on EW2 because we were terrified of the cables. But while we were doing that, Empire 1 got approved. So Empire 2 today, actually earlier today, they've withdrawn their application. It took us a year and a half. They have withdrawn their application to run their cable through Long Beach. Okay. Now, that doesn't mean they're going away. Today was a small battle that we won, a great victory for our communities here on the South Shore. However, because of our opposition and our petition signatures and our vocalization, they enacted a different process. So Kathy Hochul created a new organization called ORES, which is I don't know the acronym. It's the Offshore Offshore Renewable Energy Siting. Okay.
Okay.
This is a appointed position, and one person that's appointed will now, instead of going through the Article 7 process, which was created to protect the communities and the residents that might be impacted by these energy gurus, it's supposed to protect us and to make sure that it is a necessity and that it's affordable energy. That's what Article 7 does. They want to remove the Article 7. So Empire 2 is leaving the process and waiting for the Rapid Act, which was passed by Kathy Hochul. It was not a standalone bill. It was a bill that was contained in one of these omni bills. You know how it is today.
Right. They dump something in so nobody can see it, and it's just, they do it all the time.
That's right. So the Rapid Act has passed, and we think that the plan for Empire 2 is that they're going to resubmit their application, number one, at over 56% more than the first subsidies due to inflation and other reasons. They say they need more subsidy money. And this new process, the Rapid Act, will circumvent any resident input, and it will circumvent municipality input. And it's a rapid process. It will be completed in 180 days, and it's all approved by one single person. Okay, yes. So there's no proceedings, there's no input, there's no environmental impact statements. Like, it's just a speedy process to fast track renewable energy. So what do you say to that?
Christina, my mind is in all different places, and I'm listening to you, and I have questions, and I'm listening, and I just have more questions. This is so fascinating to me. First of all, that one person who controls with the Rapid Act, is that the governor, or is that going to be somebody else?
The person that will be doing the approvals is appointed by the governor.
Right. Okay. Who is appointed by the governor?
I don't know the name of the person sitting on that board right now.
Okay.
Yeah, if somebody, maybe somebody can chirp in from my group if they're listening.
Well,
I'm sure.
By the way, you have a couple of comments here, Christina, I want to read. Tim Kramer says you look great. Showed that earlier. And Tony Egan, if I'm not mispronouncing it. Mm-hmm. Go Christina. And then she also added
ORES, Office of Renewable Energy Siting and Electric
Thank
Transmission.
you, Tony.
Yeah.
Okay.
Acronyms. There's so many acronyms.
I'm just going to write down ORES. That's okay. I worried about two things before we spoke today that were on my mind. The first is, I don't know how they actually put these things in the ground. I mean, I know from construction, how to construct the footing and so forth, but I don't know how you do it in the ocean without disrupting the seabed itself. Yeah, please.
I can tell you.
I've always been curious about this.
So these the turbines are monopiles, and they're going to take these big giant ships and pound them 180 feet beneath the ocean surface, and that noise is going to. So when a whale hears this noise, they consider it a predator, and they'll do anything they can to get away from this sound, even beach themselves.
Well, right, not to interrupt you, but that's what I was afraid you were going to say. So to me, before you even get to everything else, just start with the process of building a piling in the middle of the ocean. Yeah. I mean, and what that causes, the damage that causes.
Yes. Do I need to say what that would do? I mean,
Anybody knows construction, not to interrupt you. Anyone knows construction in New York City knows that you can't do that anymore, right? You can't pile drive anymore. You have to use helical piles, and takes much longer. It's kind of like a
well,
less
the
the process.
offshore
You can't
wind
do in the offshore. They're going to be pounding them out. Right.
They said they're going to put bubble curtains around each turbine so that the whales won't hear that big noise. They're also paying off fishermen $3,500 to $9,000 a day to take them around and look for whales and things, and look for monitor fish and stuff. And that's why the fishing industry is largely not fighting large silences or support from the fishing industry outside of the obvious opposition. They also say, we'll be watching those whales. If those whales are in vision, we stop for 20 minutes. And they have these incidental authorizations, which is basically an approved murder. But to this date, they don't have even one incidental authorization take on record. So they've never heard a whale or a dolphin or a crustacean. They have nothing on record, but for some reason, they have hundreds and thousands of these sea creatures on a list of things that they are allowed to kill or damage in the process of installation of these turbines and ocean mapping. Oh, I forgot to tell you, with each one of these leases, they also get a certain amount of acreage in the ocean to search, scour, and mine for oil and gas. Yeah.
I don't know how to react. I'm sorry if I'm on camera and I act like an idiot, but this is how I am in person. When you hear something so freaking stupid, I mean,
every day we wake up and think to ourselves, how could the greenies and the tree huggers go against us? And like I've met people from the Audubon Society or Splash, and we're like, how could you be on board with this? They say, well, the Audubon Society is backing it, and that's what we follow what they say.
Let me interrupt you. Let me write this down. Let me write this down accurately, Christina. Each lease comes with additional
permits for oil and gas searching and permitting. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right, which goes back to your point and why we called them what we called them earlier. These companies are petro companies in disguise, and mostly international petro companies.
We also have Shell, Exxon, BP, Dong Oil. I can't, you name it. If it's an oil company, they're invested in this energy because all they do is use fossil fuels 24 hours a day. And the subsidies are there. It's all about the subsidies. If the subsidies didn't exist, wind energy would not exist. They're taking our tax dollars without our permission and investing in this energy that's unreliable, unaffordable, intermittent, and cannot carry the payload.
Right. And Christina, what kind of feedback are you getting from the industry, from the governor's office, from politicians? What's been the feedback?
Okay, so in the industry, I am a viper. They refuse to. We've gone to all the Equinor meetings. We beg them to come to our community and to give us information and answers to the questions that we have. They refuse to. They have tried to have meetings here where they put these boards up in these small rooms with terrible acoustics because we learned so much on these calls from each other. They stopped having meetings where we could actually ask questions and learn from each other's answers, that they developed this divide and conquer method where we will only be able to talk to one of their people and they'll yes you to death or kind of make you feel a little bit moronic, and then you give up and you walk away and then you go to the next person, but the other people don't get to learn from your questions. Okay, so the feedback from their community is they fill their check boxes. They put these little tiny ads in the back of the classifieds. Okay, public, we're about to do this, and then they check their boxes. They'll buy a dinner at the Kiwanis Club dinner and say, okay, we were with the Kiwanis Club. They'll buy a raffle station at the Harvest Fest and say, okay, we were in Long Beach. They check boxes. From the politicians, I'll give a great shout out to the ones who've been here for us. Number one.
Hold on, before you do that, let me just share a couple of things. First of all, a comment from Michelle Ann, who said, "Hello, Christina, and thanks, Ray." No, thank you, really. Thanks for watching, and thanks, Christina, for educating me. I really feel like an idiot.
My pleasure.
Also, she writes that it says right in the OSW documents that the work is harming whales. So it's right in their documents, which is to your point also, Christina, that everything
Michelle
you're pulling
is one of our best researchers on the team. She's probably our head researcher. So when she got on, she's here to answer anybody's questions. And then Marjorie and Jennifer. But listen, any questions that people could have, if we don't know the answer, we'll find the answer for you. So please ask the questions even after the podcast.
Okay, so let me do this. Let me go back to how do I do this? I really should know what I'm doing. No, I want to go sorry, Christina.
They can go on our page, Protect Our Coast -LINY. We are also shadow banned by Facebook. So you really have to put the whole title in there, Protect Our Coast -LINY.
Okay, hold on. Let me write that down first. So it's, so the name of the group is Protect Our Coast
-LINY.
LINY. Okay. Please find, because you have to type in exact based on exact search. Okay. By the way,
in the comments, once this is posted, Michelle probably already did that. If this is posted, Michelle put a link to our page.
Thank you, Michelle. I'll post this document also, which is just my free notes, and anyone can read them, whatever you want. We're talking about politicians. Who's been good? Who's been bad? Who's been receptive? Who's been ignoring you? I don't, some are friends, maybe some are not. I don't care. Let's put it down.
Okay. Well, for number one, I want to make sure that your entire audience knows that we are apolitical. We are working with Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, Independents. We don't care who you are. If you're aligned, we're a single issue voting base. If you're aligned with us, we will vote for you, and we will beg our people to vote for you. We are a 501c3, which means that we can't lobby politicians, but we can certainly give our opinions. So the people who have been steadfast with us, number one is Ari Brown, and he's up for re-election running against Tina Posterli. Ari Brown has been with us since day one. He has gone to the state assembly and pleaded
he's an
out.
assembly, right? He's an assembly.
Yeah, he's a New York State assemblyman. I can't say how candid and frank he's been, calling people out and really advocating for our communities. There was somebody from Brooklyn, Kathy Hochul, passed it to this guy, Kevin Brown, and Ari went toe to toe with him and said, you don't even know where their boardwalk is. You don't even know where this town is, and you should not be approving or disapproving. Anyway, Ari Brown, big fan. Anthony D'Esposito, he's our congressperson. He is in the 4th district, and he is up for re-election. And he's running against Laura Gillen, who will not take a meeting with us. She's in with the League of Conservation Voters, and they'll bring union people to our meetings to intimidate us. I'm 100% Anthony D'Esposito's also co-chair of the Offshore Wind Caucus. And he's been doing everything he can to help us. He even put on his sign, Anthony D'Esposito for Congress, Protect Our Coast on the top. So we're big fans of his. And then the senator that's been working with us is, if you don't know this one, you got to have a problem with it. It's Patricia Canzaneri Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, I know she is, but there's no way I can spell it right. Senator, I want to get it right. Hold on one second.
Patricia
Yeah. Let me just, I'll do put Senator Patricia. What was the? Just forgot her.
Canzoneri, Canzoneri.
Uh, okay, I got it right here. Yep.
Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, that Fitzpatrick. Okay. Number
So
one, Senator.
and then if you need a legislator, it would be Pat Mullaney. And I just want to go on record and say we had a slate right here in our local municipality in Long Beach.
Who? I'm sorry, Christina. Who's the legislator?
Patrick Mullaney.
He's a legislator.
Yeah, he's a Nassau County legislator, and I'm a huge fan. He shows up at everything. All of these politicians that I'm talking about, I started doing these presentations in Long Beach. That's why I'm so knowledgeable. I created these visual presentations to bring the knowledge to the people in bars and restaurants. And finally, I got the library. I do presentations to to educate people, to raise awareness. And these four here, they actually attended our presentations to learn for themselves. I mean, even as elected officials, you don't always know the details of a project until maybe a resident sounds off the alarm bells. But these people would come to our presentations and then take a minute to take some time at the end to talk to the constituents. And just more to that, we had a council, our city council in Long Beach, that wasn't helping us. We kept going to council meetings and saying, please advocate for your community. Meanwhile, these council members were taking payoffs and taking literally bribes from Equinor for sponsoring events and buildings and things like that. And then we gathered together and we got them all voted out. 3 of them were up for election and 3 of them changed hands because we went out like animals and begged people to understand our mission and why we needed people who would stand in the way of offshore wind. And the guys that we have in there now are lockstep with us. And we have legal counsel within our municipality that's also starting to join the Article 7 processes and fight for us.
Kathy just wrote a few minutes ago, don't feel like my comments, I feel like an idiot. I still feel like an idiot, but thank you, Kathy. They purposely hide information, but everything is in their own documents, which is really telling.
Thousands and thousands of pages. No working person has the time to go through this or the bandwidth to encompass everything that's in there.
Yeah. So somebody at home who wants to get involved, obviously we're promoting the group here because this is an easy way to get information. I just joined the group and I got a lot of information in advance of the podcast. So there's a lot of information on the group, and not loosey-goosey, just talking points, very specific. You want numbers? I like numbers. There's numbers. There's all kinds of data here. There's all kinds of information. And again, what Christina said, and I guess what Michelle said is at the same time, was it Tony, Kathy? It's all in the documents that they provide. Right. So there's not even an issue here about where the source is. They are the source.
They try to send people to our community, like to our Chamber of Commerce, to explain to the businesses how great this is for us. And we show up at those meetings and challenge them. And when we get there, they go home. And they try to act like they're not working for offshore wind, but then we find out that they are. So how people can get involved, number one is to get on the Propel New York Article 7. You can get on, Michelle will put a link up there, Propel New York. You need to get on their Article 7, even if it's just to learn more about the project, to educate yourself, or to receive documents or emails about what's happening with the project. So Propel New York. And then the second thing is we need to fight the Rapid Act. The Rapid Act is a bad rule or law, whatever it is. And
is that right? 180 days, only one person decides, right?
That's right. And the Chevron, something happened with the Supreme Court with the Chevron Act. That's I think that's our way forward. I don't completely know how to do that. our way forward is because they're making up all these acronymed associations and corporations, and a lot of this is unconstitutional for them to tell us what shots we need and what energy sources we can use. And the Chevron Act, I think, is going to end up being our friend. I'm not a lawyer, but I think that that's now going to be the road forward. And then the other way is, and I hate to say this because that's not what I came on here for, is that they can get on our website page, which is pocliny.org, POCLINY.org.
Say one more time,
POCLINY.org.
Okay.
And they can leave a donation for us. Sorry.
No
We are a 100% resident 501c3 that we had to create because we had to raise money to pay our lawyer to defend us in the Article 7 proceedings. You'll get crushed if you don't have legal representation. With that money, all we do is pay for our legal representation and then pay for marketing, to send letters to people, to put mailers out there, to have fundraisers, to put ads in the papers, in the Herald, in the Newsday. It's just to raise awareness and education. We don't take any salaries. We are poor as could be. We're all donating our time, energy, and money to get this thing going. And spread the word. Talk to your friends, talk to your neighbors, talk at the water cooler. Don't be afraid to bring it up in a conversation. And don't let people tell you it's a good thing until you've done your own research. Do your own research. Don't take people's words for things. The only way we learned about this is by going through their own documents, and challenge this, and reach out to your legislators. Tell them, I don't care what party they're in. You got to reach out to legislators or your elected officials, anybody who's up for election, and say, where do you stand on this specific issue? Turbines, Propel New York, and the battery substations. We want to know what your stance is. And if they won't talk to you about it, or if they won't share information with you or tell you what side they're on, they're not the person you want to vote in.
Listen, this is going to sound political, and I know you don't want to go political. And I'll say we'll do another one 8 o'clock with Trezor. But the thing about this is that what politicians will do in a case like this, based on my reading the newspaper and sense of how things go on in this world in politics, is they will try to group this into a big umbrella of things. They don't want to get specific. Let's not talk about a whale. Let's talk about saving the earth. Let's talk about everything under the world, because we don't want to get into details. And what you just said, I think, is really important, which is to say, first of all, do your own research, but also reach out to your legislators and your government officials about where they stand about this specific issue. So when people get mad and say, I'm targeting this one, targeting that one, and we're going after, it's not that. It's that getting them on the record about an issue. What's wrong with that?
Yes. We should not be destroying the environment to save the climate, number one. You don't destroy the environment to save the climate. Yeah. Can we really save the climate? Or is that something that just changes over time? I'm not here to argue whether that's a thing or not. As far as the elected officials, you have to ask them. And if they won't give you an answer, you have to find somebody who will. You have to listen, we forget these people are elected and they work for us. They need to understand that if they don't behave or protect us in the way that they should, we're going to work to vote them out. We can't, that's the only way. And don't think that your local municipality doesn't matter. We get that sometimes from our local municipality. They're like, well, it's out of our hands. That's federal. And we say to them, they're not going to listen to us more than they're going to listen to you. We're coming to you. You have to go up the ladder. There's a chain of command here, and we don't want to go around you. We'd rather have your support than to have to go around you. So do your part. And your school boards, your school boards. If your school board won't protect the children in that community, vote your school board out. I went to a school board meeting Monday, and I asked them, what is your stance on turbines and the batteries and, all of this that's going on? And they said they wouldn't even entertain me. They said, we'll take it under advisement, like I was some fly on the wall. Well, let me tell you, I'm going to be at every school board meeting going forward. And if they won't get on board with us and help us protect our community, we're going to make it our mission to vote every one of them out and get somebody who will. These school boards have a lot of power. They do what the governor tells them to, and they've stopped advocating for our children. It's all about how much money do they get, and that has to stop. You have to start, and if start electing people who follow your values, your quality of life, the way that you want to live. And if you're electing lemmings who just take orders, you're going to pay for it. Your real estate values are going to go down. They'll say things like, it's for jobs, that we're going to give jobs to union workers. Well, let me tell you something about that. Number one, those jobs, they're not getting any of the high paying jobs. You might get some of the schlep work while they're installing these, but afterwards, those big jobs are going to their corporate headquarters. And you know what? You're union workers. And my father worked for the transit authority till the day he died. So I'm a union fan, but you're part of a union, which means if you're not working on this form of energy, you'll work on a form of energy that works. You don't have to go against the residents in your community to keep your union jobs. And they forget that union workers live within the communities that they're working in. This is horrible to pit us against each other in this way. Union jobs working. Oh, and by the way, they'll say things like they mess with the statistics. They'll say these turbines will power 17,000 homes, and it's for the greater good. But what they're not saying is that, well, it'll power 17,000 homes, but we have 20 million people living here. So what are the rest of them going to get? Fossil fuels.
Right. And Christina, thank you for your time. As we're wrapping up, I'm just going to scroll through our notes real quick. And I wanted to ask you a question. This is something I wanted to ask you. I thought about yesterday. So I almost forgot. I was concerned because I said to myself, nothing lasts forever. We know that. And, maybe something will happen in time. Let's hope that something happens where we have a new source of energy, or we have a new method that's clean, makes everybody happy, produces enough power. In years, I don't know, at some point, if they build these monstrosities, and they're working the way that they want them to work, even with that scenario, at some point, these things are going to be outdated. And my concern is, you might have a few windmills sitting out in the middle of the ocean that are just, garbage at some point. But it's actually not that. I'm understating the problem by a lot. And let's just go back to what you said initially, talking about the size of these things, because I really didn't understand this. So we're talking about these being about 30 times the size of Long Beach, and a quarter the size of Nassau County in terms of area, right? So you're talking about building a city of turbines and the transmission,
the infrastructure,
substations, the substations with the diesel engines on top of it. So you're talking about building a city in the ocean that nobody knows exactly what's going to happen in time, and maybe it'll work for a period of time and produce a small amount of energy, I guess, maybe. But then at some point when it becomes antiquated and the companies go bankrupt and nobody wants to pay for it, who's going to remove these things? Or are they just there in the middle? Right, and they're just sitting out there. Right.
Well, I do want to point out that one turbine blade in Nantucket fell off. I'm sure you heard about that one. That dropped 60 tons of fiberglass in the ocean. It's a known fact. It's a statistic that 0.5 of turbine blades will fail for whatever reason. So that means if they put these turbines up, we will have 2 instances like this per month from the ocean industrialization, and our beaches will be closed. You won't be able to attend your beaches because there'll be fiberglass in your sand. Your coastal businesses will die. The real estate will go down. So we didn't have a way to quantify that until the blade in Nantucket went down. And since then, 3 other blades have dropped into the ocean that they don't talk about. There's a media shutout. They're not putting this on the news. Whales are dying every day. One whale died yesterday. They don't put it on the news. And now it's becoming a regular thing that people are just rolling their eyes at it. When did we start hating our whales? Didn't we used to try to conserve them? Wasn't it a big thing? Save the whales. When did we stop caring about them? Sea turtles, I don't get it. They call us offshore wind opposition, like these bad words, when in reality, we're the conservationists. All we're saying is we want to keep it wild. We want to maintain our quality of life. We want to save the ocean and the ecosystems in the ocean, conserve them. Whales produce carbon dioxide. We're stewards of this planet. It's our job to try to do our best. And whatever happened to using a little, like, we need more. Why not say, let's cut down our electricity if we're having a small problem, or, use a little bit less or whatever. But what they're doing is just saying we need more. And then this could get into conspiracy land. But we don't need more electric. We have no brownouts, no blackouts. They just updated our regular electric here by adding another 13,000 volts. Okay. Who needs the data? It's not us. This energy isn't even coming to the South Shore communities. It's going through Long Island and upstate for AI, for data mining, for big companies. And although we are not here to say what energy we should be using, AI, Google, Bezos, all of them, they're buying up all the nuclear energy, and they're creating their own small nuclear reactors.
Yeah,
so
right. And that's what I was alluding to when I said new thing. I didn't want to say nuclear because I don't know how far it's developed, but that's exactly what I was thinking about when we were talking about these things being outdated. Nuclear is on its way, micronuclear. Everyone's in. Castamedes is investing in it. Bezos, Bill Gates, anyone you can think of who's got a lot of money is investing in this technology. Really, really interesting. And I'm glad you mentioned what you just said a moment ago about wanting to keep the oceans wild, because if I had just read this and I was playing devil's advocate, or I hear some people on the other side talk about, well, you must be part of the lobby, you must be part of all fossil fuels. What's your connection? It sounds like you're very
that people will lie and say these people are funded by the oil company.
Right. So actually, let me get you on record, since I don't know who's watching, but let's just state it for the record, make it very clear. So, Christina, are you a lobbyist for the gas industry? Are you being paid by the gas industry? Are you being funded by the gas industry?
We have zero connection with any energy companies, especially oil or gas. We are 100% resident, business funded. Our local businesses, we throw duck contests, and we have local fundraisers to fund us. No, we're poor. We do all our legwork. That is a complete 100% lie. So go ahead.
Well, listen, I thank you very much, Christina, and I want to say thank you to Val, because she told me, you're going to love this, and she's absolutely right. I love this interview. I learned a lot. I'm going to study up on this even more and follow these bullet points. I'll make this Google Doc available. Don't judge me on my spelling or anything else, because I just did it quick. And I mean, even if I had 2 hours, I'd still do that. But I just try to take notes when I'm learning something, so I can go back and remember and, whatever. But no agenda for me, just wanted to learn. I think I learned a lot. Anybody watching today learned a lot. I am enormously grateful to you, Christina, and I will say completely that I joined the fight with you, and I'm looking forward to participating, because who the heck would want this? When you understand or you listen to all this, please consider. And I just want to stress, because everyone's always going to come up with a conspiracy and agenda. As was stated multiple times, the information is in the impact statements already, right? So if you need to find the information, right, and I'm sure very few other people have, as far as people like me, just normal people at home, just not don't know. We read the newspaper and we see it and we flip it, but I never knew any of this stuff. And
Well, the
and so
media
I feel that's
portrays
why.
a completely different story, so it's totally understandable. We don't think anybody's an idiot. We understand that people are uneducated. It's a media blackout, and they only put out the big wind companies, big oil companies tell them to put. We can't get the word out. That's the problem. We are having difficulties educating people. Once they really truly just open their ears and their minds to what we've learned, there's no going back. And that's what happened to me. I crawled into a rabbit hole that I can't get out of.
It's so
And
many
I don't want to get out
stories.
of it because it's the right thing
Yeah.
to do.
Well, listen, I think everybody understands whatever everyone's political party is or persuasion, whatever you want to call it. There's nothing better than somebody who just gets involved because of an issue that hits home and it becomes a passion. And then you put your effort, your energy, your money, your resources into something that's so important. And, for people who don't care about the ocean, there are some people who don't maybe not care about the whales. Circle back to what we wrote down and what we took notes on about those power lines being underneath the streets where you live. So if you don't have a thing for whales, you don't care about the fish, whatever it is you want to come up with to justify, not you, but people want to
2 to
justify.
6 years of massive construction. Think about your commuter all
Yeah.
across Long Island. If you don't
Yeah.
care about that, I'm sure you care about your commute. LIRR shut down, streets shut down.
I've learned a lot. Thank you
Yes.
very, very much, Christina. And I'm going to invite you again. You know this because I can't wait to do this again. Next time I'm going to know a little bit more. So I'll have some more specific questions to ask you. But thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And
Thank you for the
invite anybody
exposure.
to.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for the platform. We'll come back anytime you want. And if you need experts to join me, I can do that too. It's been a real pleasure. And we're so grateful that you're willing to do this for us. And we look forward to the next time.
Thank you so much, Christina. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Have a great night. And thank you,
You too.
everybody. We'll be back soon. Thanks, everybody. Bye.